Okay, now for the main event. I'm so excited. Okay, so most of you know him when his videos went viral. That's when I met him. He's a comedian on stage. He has a wildly successful podcast. He's a singer. He's a guitar player. I don't know. This guy does everything, right? What doesn't he do? If you haven't had a chance to check him out, please do. He's hilarious. But also, Chad has a very serious side. He wants Abbott out. He is here to tell us why. Yes. And he's here to tell us why he is running for governor of the great state of Texas. Because like all of us, he is done with government overreach. So let's give him a warm welcome.
I love you guys. Can you hear me okay in the back? Oh, well, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
I got it.
There we go. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, all right, let me ask that again. Can you hear me okay in the back? I'm assuming that's a yes. Rachel, do we have any more of these, the no trespassing signs? Go over there and see Rachel. If you were with us in Denison a few weeks ago, I showed you these. Posted notice, no trespassing, no soliciting. We don't want what you're selling. We know who we're voting for, Prather 2022. Keep Texas red, Abbott out. If we wanted the vaccine, we got it. If we don't want it, we won't get it. Post those up. I don't know if you're anything like me. I spent most of last week, really the last 2 weeks, reasonably pissed off. And so I did something over the past few days that I rarely do, and that is I wrote down some thoughts. And I want to share a little bit of that with you tonight. And I know it's warm in here, and I also know that the brain cannot absorb what the seat can endure, so I'm going to speak quick. But I want you to consider something with me for a little while. A phrase. God bless Texas. God bless Texas. Now, you can put emphasis on any word in that statement. God bless Texas. God bless Texas. God bless Texas. Wherever you put the inflection, it changes the meaning, but it's equally as important. When you say God bless Texas enough times through the course of your adult life, if you're not careful, you could start to lose a little bit of the feeling behind it. You start to lose a little bit of the sacred importance of what that phrase stands for. The great subset, I believe, of American exceptionalism has been for 176 years Texas exceptionalism. We are both state and republic. We are the wind of change when change is needed. And when the principles that formed the backbone of our great country need protecting from the capricious whims of a power-hungry, uncivil society and culture that's on the move, as we see sweeping the nation today, we, Texans, are the steadfast rock to which the nation may secure its anchor. We stand at the forefront of every good bit of the light that the United States of America can shine forth to the world. And we bear the broadest shoulders as Texans against all that would seek to put out that light forever. God bless Texas. There's a Texas way of living. There's a Texas way of thinking. There's a Texas way of talking. There's a Texas way of walking. We could probably chew gum in Texan. There's a certain swagger. There's a certain way we hold ourselves, our posture. Our head's a little bit higher, our chest stuck out a little bit further. We have an attitude about us, and it's well-deserved. Our politics and our public persona are of a complementary nature to one another, and you can take our sir and our ma'am and our thank you and our please and our darling and our dear and our holding the door for women You could have that whenever you could pry it from our cold, dead fingers. That's what we are as Texans. But do not mistake that civil thread, that hospitality as Texans, for anything less than the calm reason before the storm of decision and leadership. Here in this place that literally lies between sea and shining sea, where the sunlight lands most brightly on the forge of industry, and where the well of the blood and treasure that flows out of our nation does not run dry, here in Texas. We take our place beneath the mantle of leadership, beneath the star of our flag and the stars of our Creator, and we live our honor from a time when we draw first breath until the time we go to meet Him in the life beyond. God bless Texas. We are pro-business, we are pro-life, we are anti-regulation, and we are anti-walking backwards in the wrong direction. Folks, you don't get to be the 9th largest economy in the world by slouching. And I assure you, our posture historically, our legacy is straight and proud. We stand tall beneath our cowboy hats and our business hats and our rancher hats and our farmer hats and our mother hats and our father hats and our teacher hats, our medical hats, whatever hat you may wear in the industry that is provided in the free market of Texas. And we stand above the fruit of our hard work. The sweat of our brow is alchemized. The steel of our reserve is galvanized. And we do not lightly step to the job at hand, no matter what that job may be. The evolution of a Texas state of mind begins at a mother's knee, where we're taught to serve our God, our state, and our country, and most generally in that order. And it ends in an easy demeanor where we wear as comfortably as a well-loved pair of boots. The look of a Texan is a surface-level portrait of a deeply developed soul. The songs are all true. The legends are all gospel. I believe Pecos Bill still rides that cyclone across the rain-thrashed prairie. And that gorgeous yellow rose still breaks hearts to a man whenever we think of her. This is how it's been. This is how it must remain. Texas was born to lead, not to follow. It was born to be the vanguard of the cause for which we exist, not a rear guard that has its heels nipped at by tyranny. The problem is simple. Texas is no longer the Texas that Texans think it is. We can write the eloquent words of history. We can remind ourselves of the words of Sam Houston that said that Texas is yet to know oppression from anyone. But we know we're not leading as we should. We know that we're not number one in so many areas. In fact, we tend to rank in the 40s. 40th in the nation in terms of property tax, 40th in the nation in opportunity, 40th in health care, 40th in education. And when I say 40, I mean between 40 and 50, somewhere we fall. But yet we call ourselves the greatest state in the nation. Now, I wasn't born here, you know this. I was conceived in Dallas. And as a pro-lifer believing life begins at conception, I believe that I'm at least seminally a Texan. My father was an engineer. He moved all over the country. They just happened to be in New Jersey when my mother gave birth. And my father was watching the Redskins play the Dallas Cowboys, who he was pulling for, in overtime. He wouldn't take my mother to the hospital. 4 months into my life, we moved to my mother's hometown, which was back in the state of Georgia, where I grew up. Went to the University of Georgia. And I came out to Texas 20 years ago. I heard a certain heartbeat. I heard something that I've come to identify as the spirit of Texas, which I say is not caught, or I'm sorry, it's not taught, but it's rather caught. The spirit of Texas is infectious. Understanding that we have what I call a humble arrogance, where we take off in our pickup trucks to go help our neighbors in need, but yet we don't take any crap off of anybody. We love our neighbors. We care for those. We look after strangers the best we know how. But we stand with a pride that most places don't know. So you have to understand that I take it as a little bit of a punch in the gut when people tell me that, like a reporter from NBC did this morning who said, well, you guys didn't do what South Dakota did. You didn't do what Florida did. And they're right. We do not face being dictated to real well, do we? Whether it's from the 2.5 million bureaucrats that are unelected in Washington, D.C., that are reaching their greedy fingers into our pockets on a daily basis. When we realize that that's what's going on, we understand that our officials, our representatives, our leaders, quote unquote, they're not elected anymore. They're appointed. The people who are making the rules. See, I was ticked off last week. I was mad the last couple of weeks at that dementia pudding brain riddled guy in the White House, Joe Biden. A guy who doesn't know where he is, doesn't know what he's doing. After the debacle in Afghanistan, his traitorous actions there, something that you could not do on accident, you have to do what happened on purpose, should at least be in prison or at bare minimum licking the windows in an old folks home. The man is so addle-brained that he needs help to chew pudding. He wasn't elected, he was appointed. He's a puppet on a string. We're starting to see very clearly that those who lead us are just that. They're being dictated to as much as we are. Now, the difference between the guy sitting in Washington, D.C. and the guy sitting in Austin, Texas, is the guy in Austin, Texas knows damn well what he's doing. But yet he does it anyway. I've counted at least 14 violations of our Constitution in the last 18 months alone have been committed by Governor Greg Abbott. How many times does somebody have to break your house rules before you get rid of them and they're no longer welcome? Now, the reporter this morning asked me, he said, according to the media. Now that right there sent up a red flag. He said, according to the media, Greg Abbott is doing a good job as a conservative. I said, well, according to conservatives in Texas, he's not. Now, I voted for the man. I voted for the man 2 different times. I had high hopes. I never wanted to be in the position I'm in right now. You want to talk about a reluctant candidate, but a guy who just had enough. I had no reason to do this. I have people all the time that say, are you doing this for a popularity thing? Are you trying to gain a bigger following? No, I don't need this kind of popularity. People say, you're just doing this to make money. If you could tell me how to run for office and make money, meet me outside or meet me in there. I'll buy you a beer here, okay? I want to figure that one out because I don't know how to do that. I was talking to my friend Graham Allen, he's running for Congress in South Carolina. And Graham and I were on the phone. He said, how's it going? I said, well, it's controlled chaos. I said, how's it going for you? He said, I'm probably going to win this thing. He said, but when I win it, I'm going to be bankrupt. And I said, yep, I know the feeling. I said, why are we doing this? Because something internal. I call it a harmonic resonance. You could take a tuning fork and bang it on something over there and let that tuning fork make a vibration, make a sound. And you can hold a tuning fork up 20 feet away, and without touching that tuning fork, just holding it in the air, it will pick up the same harmonic resonance, the vibration of sound. It'll pick up the same tune as the one you rang across the room. See, that's why we're here tonight. That's why you are fighting the Sherman ISD. Because you heard something that you knew needed to be fixed. Something just doesn't resonate right with your soul. It was a discordant note. And you rose up to fix that. And I congratulate you on doing so. Your battle isn't over. It's going to continue. I pray that General Paxton will continue to push forward in his efforts to put those wrongs right. And I pray that you'll continue to do as well. But everywhere I go across Texas, I was in South Texas this morning. Everywhere I go, it's the same story over and over again. People feel violated. They feel like their rights have been taken away from them. See, I got into this thing because I want to make politics boring again. How many of you, just show of hands, and this is where I want to start talking, and it sort of, I have to breathe because it makes me want to cuss a little bit. But how many of you saw AOC in her dress last night? That hypocritical person that said tax the rich, who was at a $30,000 a plate benefit. She was dressed like a Chick-fil-A bag, if you ask me. And you don't like equating AOC to Jesus chicken, right? That's the deal. Yeah. I wish she was closed on Sundays. It would at least give us a little bit of a break. But why did a bartender from the Bronx become this really running Washington, D.C. in a big way? Because we've turned them into celebrities. These people go down there and people spend all this money, put these people in office, and they become celebrities. They become well known. Let's make politics boring again. There's no reason for me and you to know the name of the Secretary of the Interior. Let's get politics out of our life. People ask me all the time about property taxes. What are we going to do about property taxes? There's a lot of things that need to be done about property taxes. They need to be reduced. They need to be eliminated. But property taxes have gotten, like everything else, from the politicians to the policies, to the legislations, to the rules, to the laws, to the mandates. Everything has gotten so big, it's out of control. Our property tax, like so many different things, is like a tumor that has grown into an organ, and we don't know how to extract the healthy organ from this cancerous tumor. But we've got to do it. Because it's not getting any better, it's only getting worse. Property taxes is just one example. Look at our border. There is no simple solution to a complex problem. None. I believe we can't solve our problems and still be politically correct. That's why I'm a little bit brash. I'm a little bit brazen. I say things that people don't like. I'll get on social media and I will post things just to piss you off. Because I realize that in our slumber and in our sleep, we're not going to do anything about it. We've got to engage. That's why Alexander Hamilton and the others, when they wrote the Federalist Papers under the pseudonym Publius, and they published them in a series of 85, 86 articles in the newspaper, they wrote them to make the public angry about their situation, to stir the fires of revolution, to make people discuss it, debate it, dialogue, disagree, in some cases even duel. And out of that formed a more perfect union, a republic, a system that was by the people and for the people. We call ourselves conservatives, but we're not conserving anything anymore. Government's gotten so big. I hear it all the time. And if you'll be honest with yourself, this is what you're hearing right now. What are we going to do? They are forcing a jab mandate, a vaccine mandate. What are we going to do if we lose our jobs? I've offered several different solutions. People don't like to hear that because, again, it's a complex problem and it's going to take a non-politically correct solution. It's going to have to start with mass noncompliance. We may have to take it into our own hands across this nation to shut industry down. But how am I going to pay my bills? Maybe you skip AT&T this month. Maybe you don't watch TV. Maybe you raise the windows in your house. See, I can already feel the pushback in here. We don't, most of them, now you do, but across this state, you think the folks in downtown Dallas know how to grow a garden? You think they know how to kill a deer and skin it, quarter it, process it, cook it? No. They got to go to Nick and Sam's. This is the America we're living in. This is what I mean when Texas isn't the Texas that most Texans think it is anymore. We have lost our identity. We've lost our destiny. We're losing our legacy. Folks, we've let this thing get out of control. When Greg Abbott, let me throw a number at you. When Greg Abbott spends $295 million, a quarter, more than $250 million on contact tracing. People say, give me one reason not to vote for Greg Abbott. There's one. Now, how many violations do you need? I mean, we can go down a list of a guy who played both arsonist and fireman. He created the mandates and then lifted them. And now we're seeing, I like to call him Governor Loophole, because he always leaves a loophole. And we're seeing it this week, because what he's done now is he's now leaving it up to local municipalities and their government officials to determine if there's going to be masks and more mandates. And he, like Pontius Pilate, just washes his hands and moves on into the election cycle. He stands there proudly sits there in front of a camera the other day and says, election integrity is now law in Texas. Now? You've been in Austin for 30 years. Now? Don't break your elbow patting your back, Greg. Constitutional carry, which is not constitutional, based on this permitless carry bill that's just been passed, Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr would not be able to carry a firearm in Texas. They were too young. The heartbeat bill. Now look, I'm pro-life. I want the complete abolition of abortion. That turns a lot of people off. People say, you don't have a uterus. No, I'm fighting for unborn uteruses. I'm protecting the unborn women. Why are we taking so long to deal with gender modification of our children? Well, I mean, and then pat ourselves on the back when we finally do something about it. Why do we even have to have this conversation? Why in this second special session, which is about to happen next week, he wants to talk about transgender athletes, but not property taxes? Transgender athletes competing against your daughter ought to be common sense. This is another way for a man in office to spend your taxpayer dollars to draw attention to himself in a campaign season. Politics is disgusting. This man has a war chest on the conservative side of what, $55 million? It's more than that. He raised $18.7 million in the 10 days following this last legislative session. Do you think $18.7 million in a week and a half came from mom and pop? It didn't. It came from special interests. It came from big pharma. It came from these clinics, some of which specialize in gender modification. It came from multinational corporations. It came from Silicon Valley. I love the fact that now these people who moved their industry to Silicon Valley are saying, whoa, we didn't sign up for this when it comes to abortion. Good, go back to California. But it brought so many jobs. Did it? Apparently, unless you get vaccinated, they aren't jobs you're going to get to keep. You see where we now are having a little bit of a dilemma? Pat yourself on the back, Governor Abbott, for bringing all these jobs we can't have. So you know what they'll do? They'll import more Californians, people who are willing to be subjugated. I don't know about you, but I'm a different sort. When I finally saw what the spirit of Texas was, it changed me. And I can't unsee it. I tell Alan West, who's my friend, and I tell Don Huffines, who's my friend, I tell them all the time, I say, you better hope I stay in this race a long time, because you don't want me off the damn leash. See, here's the beauty of my campaign is I've already won. I've already won. I'm telling you that if it weren't for people like me getting into a primary race, Greg Abbott, who's never been challenged in a primary by another conservative, would not be doing the things he's doing. And the guy on NBC, or the guy with NBC this morning, he said, well, he secured your border. I said, what are you smoking? I said, where are you from? He said, well, I'm not from Texas. I said, you got to be kidding me, right? So after educating him on that, talking about the chain link fences that are rolled up down on the ground in Valverde County, I reminded him that in 2014 and 2015, the headlines were filled of Greg Abbott quotes of how he was doubling the budget on border security. Now he's saying the same things in another election year. Campaign conservative. A guy that spends $25,000, $30,000 a week on public polls, opinion polls, to find out what the people want and what the people will approve of if he does it. Now, those aren't just conservatives filling out those polls, you get it? People from all walks of life. Someone asked me weeks ago from another newspaper, they said, if you get to Austin, do you think you can handle it since Austin's not like the rest of Texas? I said, there's the problem right there. The fact that Austin isn't like the rest of Texas should tell you everything you need to know. Because let me tell you something. And this should go without saying. Grayson County isn't like Dallas County. But Dallas County and Tarrant County now, unfortunately, and Bexar County, El Paso, Harris County, Houston, they're all influencing Austin. So we don't have a red state anymore. We don't. We've got a purple monster. See, that's why I want us to have a constitutional amendment. I want us to have a law in Texas that you can't have an amendment in the Constitution unless it's ratified by 3/4 of the counties in the state. That way, Dallas and Houston and San Antonio and Austin, they're not calling the shots anymore. That gives Grayson County the same power as them. Now, a number of other people like to kind of give me a little sideways glance when I tell them that I 100% support Texit. I was on the phone last week a couple of times with Texas Nationalist Movement, and let me tell you something. I'm going to have Daniel Miller on my show on the 27th, 28th. They're on Blaze, and we're going to talk about it. Because at the end of the day, it's not about secession. It's about having the right to be independent. It's about being the master of your own destiny, determining your own legislation, not allowing Washington, D.C. to dictate their Marxism into your lives on a daily basis. It's securing our own borders. It's making and keeping our own money. It's owning your property. It's not paying rent until you die. I go all over Texas. I meet with ranchers, 6, 7, these many generation ranchers, and they're telling me, my kids don't want it. Why? Because they saw what I went through to try to keep it. It's too hard. They got to pay the property taxes. It never gets old, like it never goes away. It's never theirs. The state doesn't truly benefit farmers and ranchers anymore. Agriculture, which is a heritage in Texas, a deep, respected heritage, is quite honestly being tossed into the waste bin as irrelevant in our state. The people who keep this state running are oil and gas men and women. The folks, when everything shut down in February, you know, we got the coal plants that are sitting idle. All we had to do is crank them up, but we'd shut them down. We were relying on wind energy, solar energy, something that uses 35% of the energy it produces just to keep itself running. I think there should be windmills in Texas. We should move them all down to the border wall, turn them on high, put little cushions on the end of the blade, and when you crawl across that fence, it knocks your ass right back into Juarez. You say, oh, come on, you're being silly. Maybe. At what point in time do we allow Texans to defend their property? I love what Kenny County is doing. They're 20 miles of border. Kenny County is being overrun with illegals because they're passing through Valverde. They come through Kenny County, and they have to go that way to get to the rail yards because the illegals are headed to San Antonio. So they said if Governor Abbott continues to turn down our request for DPS defense and help, which he's done over and over again, they said what we're going to do is we're going to spend $15 million a year, which in the grand scheme of things today is not that much money. We're hiring our own private security contractors, the same guys they used in Afghanistan and Iraq, and we're going to defend our own border. Amazing concept, you defending your property. Shut the border down. Don't just build a wall, build Trump's wall. Not because it's Trump's, but because he knew what he was doing. He took the advice of experts. Listen now, if we had enough money, I'd build a wall that would be so magnificent. It'd be a fabulous wall, let me tell you. It'd be amazing. We'd commercialize that wall. It'd be a wall mall. You'd have a wall burgers, Walmart, Walgreens. We'd shoot fireworks off that sucker every night. We'd be like South Texas Disneyland. Now I say that tongue in cheek, but you get my point. Let's focus on the things that are hurting us. 666 new laws just passed? Wow. Now, did you wake up last week and think, I really need 666 new laws in my life? Let's get politics out of our life. I'm a conservative. I'm running as a Republican against Greg Abbott in the primary election of 2022. Didn't want to do it, but I'm compelled by God, quite honestly, to do it. People tell me all the time on a stressful day, you don't have to do this. I say, yes, I do. Because I don't believe God will let me stop right now. Some days I wish He would. Simply because I've seen things that I can't unsee. And no matter what happens in an election cycle, you've got me for a long time. Because I'm not quitting this. It's real simple. You want government out of your life? Since Greg Abbott's been in office, the last 7 years, spending has increased on the state level by $40 billion. Do you feel like your life has been enriched by $40 billion during this administration? Our energy grid is out of control. Our water is in crisis. We're not talking about that. Our border is being overrun. We know this. Property taxes, as I've said, gone through the roof. We had just had the 87th legislative session, most conservative, right, in the history of Texas. Folks, these things have got to change. People say, how can you get that budget down back to zero? I said, how do we get it back to negative? The spending is out of control. The government is overblown. The fact that they can put a mask on your 6-year-old is tyranny. The fact that they can, I saw a sign going down the interstate, you've seen it, these healthcare professionals that say, not all heroes wear capes. Well, apparently not all heroes get to keep their jobs either. That's got to end. And now Joe Biden comes out and said, my patience is wearing thin. Well, kiss my I would immediately write an executive order that said, we will not allow that mandate to be enforced in the state of Texas. When Attorney General Merrick Garland threatened to sue the state of Texas and Greg Abbott when he put out a mandate, which I hate that word, but he said what we're going to do is we're going to allow law enforcement to stop illegals on our highways. They said, nope, that's unlawful, unconstitutional, and it's going to target Latinos. And Greg Abbott caved and he stopped pushing it. I say, Merrick Garland, put me in jail. Whenever those House Democrats left and hid under Nancy Pelosi's skirt, rather than do their job, you would have seen me on the news on my hands and knees in the Capitol building with a screwdriver in my hand changing the locks on their offices. I would have taken their chairs off the House floor, put them out in the front yard, and burned them on Congress Avenue. Put me in jail. But I'm going to make a statement. Because we are being dictated to, we're being held hostage by a government that we've allowed to go too far. I am 100% medical freedom, 100% vaccine choice. You want to get vaccinated? You get vaccinated. I haven't been. I hope I don't have to. I don't want it. Feel pretty good. If I wake up with COVID tomorrow, it's your fault. But I won't hold it against you. I won't complain. I won't say, oh, that bunch of mouth-breathing conservatives in Grayson County gave me the COVID. You put that ivermectin up my rear and squeeze the tube, I tell you. These are serious issues, folks. But at the end of the day, we got to do something about it. That's why I'm in this race. And I'm encouraging you guys, no matter what, the philosophy has to be ABA, anyone but Abbott. Anyone but Abbott, anyone but Abbott, anyone but Abbott. You can go to Prather2022.com. I'll be honest with you. We don't have millions of dollars. I don't have the money that the guys that I'm running alongside have. And by the way, when I talk about Alan and Don, I always say we're not running against one another. We're running alongside one another. That's the beauty of it. That's why we do events together. We promote one another. And I appreciate their efforts, but I need your help. Because what we've learned how to do, and I jokingly say we're grassroots, which is political speak for saying we're broke. So every donation, every dollar goes as far as we could stretch it. And I spend most of my time in my truck, crisscrossing the state. I'm not on a private jet. I'm not on an airplane. I was in South Texas this morning. I literally drove into Grayson County at 6 p.m. to be here at 6:30. This morning, listen, my clothes were dirty. I can show you my truck. It's parked right out here. My clothes were dirty. I had this jacket in the truck and this belt. I had to stop at Cavender's and buy all new clothes just to come see you. I've been sponsored by American Hat Company for years. I had to go buy one today. Last thing I needed was another hat. But I'm bald, and I didn't want to be here like that. I am pretty. Thank you, sis. But I want to say thank you to those of you who are fighting this fight, supporting, coming up, turning out, doing what you can for freedom, for liberty. Because I believe you understand what it means when I say God bless Texas. And you know what it means when God blessed Texas. And I pray that God's hand of providence and grace will remain on Texas so that we can continue writing the history that fits the legacy of Texas. God bless you guys. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you, Grayson County, for coming out here tonight. God bless you.